Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna to all the devotees. Please accept my humble obeisances. Let's begin by chanting the Mangalacharan prayers. Kindly excuse me, today my voice is very, very sore and it's more, I think it might be a bit difficult for you to follow my voice. So kindly excuse me for that. Initially, I was thinking of canceling the class, but then maybe I thought perhaps you won't get another chance to do it. On next Monday, your Gita classes are starting. So just wanted to check, are you able to hear me clearly and understand? Okay, thank you. So please bear with me. Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shalakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagajatam Sahagana Raghunathan Tang Tang Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhan Vitanscha Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshatadini Namo Mahavadanyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namine Gaurtashe Nama He Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namaste Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vanchakalpatarurvyasya Kripa Sindhu Vyevacha Patitanam Bhavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shivasadi Gaura Bhaktavinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna. So, welcome you all to this day 3 of Reading Reform course, and I thank you, and I hope you did watch the video which I shared in the group. Though it was not some rocket science we shared in that video, but some practical suggestions on how we can more easily and efficiently memorize verses, right? By following those tips, practical tips. So today now we'll cover the remaining part of the presentation. Before that, just a quick revision of what we discussed on day 2, right? And also, what did you learn from the video on shloka memorization? So kindly raise your hand and share whatever you remember, whatever you can recall from day 2. Yes, Milind Prabhu.
Well, Shastras are like person, so one should show respect to them, and just like a mother protects and nourishes, so the Shastras also protect and nourish our spiritual life.
Okay, thank you. Scriptures are personalities. Vimala Mataji.
Stages in the process of learning. Shravana,
Yes,
Manana, Nididhyasana.
yes,
Shravana is hearing from the teacher the truth, and then reflecting upon it. That is Manan, and then Nididhyasana. That is realization and application.
yes. Thank you, Mataji. Ashok Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, like Milind Prabhu said, the scriptures are persons. So when we read them, we must give them proper respect, and we must believe that they can read our mind and show us the way if and when we are facing any kind of problems, or in translating the meaning, or in understanding the scriptures in a proper way. And we must have total faith in that, even if at some stage we feel, okay, this I'm not able to understand, or this is not true. We should not go by our views that it is not true, but we should believe that Guru has written, so it is true. And we should pray to scriptures that they help us in understanding how it is true.
Yes, thank you. Okay, very important point you mentioned. Ami Mataji, Ashit Mehta Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Tanmat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, two quickly points, Prabhuji. One is how you approach or how you treat the scripture. So one is being, I mean, there were three points were made very clearly by you. Is the one is never read a scripture, Bhagavad Gita, while sleeping in a bed. Never cross over. Keep the scripture in a good place. And also you mentioned quite a bit of Prabhupada's sacrifice that he has given towards writing the Bhagavad Gita, and what is a struggle that he faced throughout the process. So these are some of the things.
Okay, perfect, Prabhuji. Next, Naveen Prabhu.
Last session, we learned how Prabhupada toiled many times to write Bhagavad Gita, and despite facing so many difficulties, he never gave up. So why would a person make so much effort to write the Shastra unless there is some real nectar or real thing in it? So
Yes.
that is very moving.
Yes.
And then we learned last time that actually there are three steps, like Shravana, or hearing or from the teacher, and reading, and then Manana, means meditating and gaining an intellectual understanding by reflecting on what was heard, and
Yes.
Nidhi Dhyasana, which is then redirection and applying that in one's own situation or one's own life.
Yes, Prabhuji.
And
Okay.
further, as far as reading is concerned, there is of course quantity reading. One can go on turning pages, one can skim, what is called a skim reading, browsing or whatever. But there is also quality reading, and both have to be done. You have to read quantity also, and your reading should be quality also. So again and again one should read. As you get time, you should read. And this is a practice to be carried whole life,
Okay.
in small installments or whatever.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Then
Thank you so
only
much.
the whole thing will start sinking into you.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
All right. Hare Krishna. Very nice points you mentioned. Bindu Mataji next.
Hare Krishna, Pranam Prabhuji.
Pranam Mataji.
Through reading, we get knowledge, and from knowledge we get austerity, and there is advancement. First point. Second is reading cleanses our heart, and third, reading sharpens our intelligence. And one more point. Fourth is reading gets us to eternal blissful life and transcendental pleasure.
Yes. Okay. Thank you. So these were the points from day one, which you mentioned. Aruna Mataji.
The very important point we mentioned was the mood, the mindset while doing an activity. And even for reading scriptures, the mood has to be as it is spoken by Krishna, carefully, diligently, seriously, and faithfully. And method, that was another point, from all angles of vision.
Thank
We're
you.
discussing them
Yes, Mataji.
scrutinizingly, step by step, and scientifically.
Yes. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Okay. So one point is there that devotional service is a science, right? It's not just based on some sentiments, and we need to understand it scientifically. Sometimes we have a tendency to do things just because it has been a social custom or a tradition, or we have been doing it for many years now. Yeah? But it has to be understood, why am I doing it? When it is a science, when it is understood scientifically, then a person is ready to make any changes to one's approach if required to get a better result, right? When the science is understood. And if the science is not understood, then we just keep on doing it, doing it, doing it. And we keep on wondering, why am I not getting the result that I expected? Isn't it? So it's a science. So the simple fact is the path is correct, the teachings are correct, the goal is also perfect. If I am not able to reach the goal, then the problem is in my efforts, in my approach, isn't it? So when we know the science well, we'll be always working on ourselves, improving ourselves, uh, and then we'll make progress in spiritual life, right? Suresh Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Prabhuji, actually, I got a wonderful insight about your last program, which you had explained about the Srila Prabhupada, taking so much pain in writing this wonderful scriptures, which we had never understood about all this. No, we had no background whatsoever, and I had never thought about all these things. And when you explained in so explicitly and beautifully, we could understand, how much pain Srila Prabhupada has taken to give us this wonderful gift to actually mankind. And prior to your this last lecture, I also thought these scriptures, okay, whenever I used to get a time, I used to devote some time and read some, one or two shlokas, and I was never serious about it. So definitely, it has made me serious, understanding and valuing the importance of these scriptures through the, pain which Srila Prabhupada has taken. So I think it is our duty to reciprocate that same. So definitely, this insight has done a huge impact on my mind and my heart. And basically, there are three broad stages, to learning these scriptures. One is Shravana, that we have to, hear this knowledge from the teachers. And the second was Manana. Like Manana is like gaining the intellectual understanding by reflecting on what is learned. Like whatever we have learned, we have to, go on doing Manana. And by doing this Manana, then the third stage will come. That is Nidhi Dhyasana. That is realization and application in one's life. So that, application is very important. So all these three factors are very, like a chain kind of a reaction. They have to be absolutely going hand in hand together.
Yes, very
Thank you.
much. Thank you so much. We are happy that you are inspired to read more now. Kanak Anga Chaitanya Prabhu.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, Prabhuji.
Pranam Prabhuji.
Prabhuji, you have explained in the last class very nicely that how we have to not to try to read the scriptures, try to study the scriptures, and how we can systematically study. We don't need to jump the books like I have read 2 pages of this book and then I started another book. Like how we can read Srila Prabhupada's book in a systematic order. Then you have explained that how scriptures are the personalities, how we have to show our respect towards the scriptures and how we have to keep the scriptures with us. And then finally, at last, you have concluded that first we have to try to study the scriptures. We have to have that understanding that what I understood. After that, we try to absorb that knowledge within us. And then practically we have to apply these teachings of Srila Prabhupada in our practical life. Then we can understand them and we can relish the nectar what Prabhupada has given in his books. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay, someone put a comment in the chat box, audio is not clear. Is that from my end that the audio is not clear? How is it? Am I not clear? Okay.
Oh, you are very clear.
Fine. Okay, Sachdev Prabhu.
Yeah, Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam. Prabhuji, I joined 1-2 minutes late, so I don't know what went by, but I'll try
We're
to.
just doing revision, nothing.
Yeah. I'll try to give those points which may have been covered or may not have been covered.
Okay.
It is about Adi Shankaracharya in that verse Gita Mahatmya. That first thing what you said, he is calling Bhagavad Gita as mother as a person.
Yes.
And you had said, you had explained that mother does 2 things. One is that it protects what our spiritual faith, and second is that it nourishes our spiritual life.
Yes.
And you also talked about mundane books having jad vidya, that is dead knowledge, and scriptures having live knowledge. And then you also discussed something about that only an alive book can protect you and guide you. How can a dead book, you cannot talk with a dead book. That also you had discussed. And then you also discussed about that wherever there is a relationship of love between two, there has to be a sacrifice at both ends. For example, you gave was between spiritual master and student. So I think you told that also. And you also said about Srila Prabhupada's mood, that Srila Prabhupada did his job of doing that sacrifice, and that night may used to write and all that. And now it is our turn to do the sacrifice of reading. Because and even if we cannot read, even if we are not qualified, at least we are trying. And only that trying aspect will make Prabhupada ji happy.
Yes. All right. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
So the spiritual knowledge is alive, and the more we practice it, the more it becomes alive. How much alive it is depends on how much you practice it, right? Like for example, I can say I'm not this body, I'm spirit, soul, but this knowledge is going to be that much alive as much I'm on the platform of being soul, isn't it? That much it's going to be alive. Okay, Gayatri Mataji had raised the hand.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji Dandavat Pranam. I wanted to put forward the same point which Sajdev Prabhuji said about sacrifice. It was a striking point from the last lecture, which has made me to put reading on the priority basis. Because Prabhupada has put in so much of efforts, so now it's our turn to read and strengthen the relationship with him.
All right, thank you. Thank you so much. None of you mentioned about the memorization verse. Why should we memorize the verse? We discussed in that video. Can you remember why should we memorize a verse? Meanwhile, Kamalakshi Mataji, any point from your side? Kamalakshi Radhika Mataji.
Because the memorizing anything, one has to concentrate and deliberately on point. And very helpful to encourage our mind in the thoughts of Krishna. Help us understand the words better. Then we can use them in our preaching.
All right. Thank you, Mataji. Ashok Prabhu, you raised your hand.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, you are right. Nobody mentioned about the memorizing, but now that you say, I remember memorizing will help us in a great way. That in case we are in a discussion with someone whose beliefs are different, that time when we talk, we will be able to put forward our case firmly with the proper verses, proper shlokas, and that will carry more weight in convincing the opposite
Yes,
person.
yes.
And
Yeah, even if that person does not agree with you, at least that person will get this idea you are speaking from an authorized source
also
of
right,
knowledge,
correct,
not
right,
speaking from your mind, isn't it?
right, right.
Yes, such day, Prabhu.
Yeah, sorry. So Prabhuji, you did that exercise in that there was a line that in Bhagavad Gita it is mentioned that Prabhupada had written like these wordings. So immediately when, although the verse was not quoted, so if you have memorized the verses, immediately you can refer to that verse.
Yes, fine, thank you. Vimala Mataji, last point. Okay, we have many problems. Unmute yourself, Mataji.
I have one question.
Krishna.
Shankaracharya advocated Advait philosophy.
Yes,
Ah, and according to him, liberation is becoming one with Brahman. According to him, Brahman is the only reality, the ultimate reality.
yes,
Okay, and he said that there are three ways, there are three processes by which we can attain nirvana, not nirvana liberation, and that is Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana. And in that he said that Nididhyasana is meditating, that is dhyan upon the nature of Brahman, and the time comes when I'll be able to say I am Brahman.
yes,
So, on the one hand, he says that Gita is the essence of the Upanishads, all Upanishads. On the other hand, his method is attaining liberation is different.
yes. Thank you for the question,
Then
Mataji. Actually, it is not so much related to the topic of our discussion,
I know that. Yeah,
but
yeah.
Shankaracharya, whatever he taught, there was a purpose behind it. Hmm. He had particularly come to separate the people who believed in the personal form of the Lord and those who believed in the impersonal form of the Lord. So, what he taught was not actually the real truth, not the complete truth, right? It was part of a greater plan of the Supreme Lord to establish Vaishnava Dharma. Now, this is in itself a big, big, big topic, so I'll not able to cover it now, okay?
Okay, okay.
But Shankaracharya, what he did, there was a purpose behind it. So, internally, he was a devotee, externally, he behaved as if he was an impersonalist, okay? Internally, he was a devotee, externally, he behaved as if he was an impersonalist. But there was a reason behind it. Okay, thank you, Mataji. So fine, now let's move on. We also that day did an exercise on efficient or effective reading, where we read some paragraphs and we asked you to then, try to recall what did you read, isn't it? And then you had remembered some points. So today we are going to discuss on few more very helpful topics. One is called experiential reading, and this is really, really important. What is experiential reading? I'll share the screen with you. It will help you understand better. So basically, when we read, uh, one thing we don't do generally is involve our mind in the reading. We read, we even apply our intelligence to it, but not always we apply our entire mind into it. We not always apply emotions into it, feelings into it. So experiential reading means you don't just read it, but you begin to experience it also. You try to enter into the mood, the emotions, the story, everything. So, how do we do that? We do it by creating mental pictures of what we read. All right. We try to see it in the mind's eye. We use imagination and engage all our senses, the sense of sight, the sense of hearing, the sense of taste, smell, whatever we can in what we are reading. Hmm? When we do this, reading will never be a boring activity. And reading will be able to take us to higher levels of meditation. Okay? Meditation on Krishna, Krishna's pastimes, things like that. Um, So we will try to practice it now, and you'll see how much difference does it make. That when you read, you try to be fully attentive and actually try to relish mm, the mellows that is there in that text, that the feelings that the characters are going through. Mm. So I'll share the screen first, uh, and I'll first ask you to read. You read it on your own. Don't read it loud, just read it to yourself. But read it in a very, very peaceful manner. Try to absorb your mind in it. Later on, I'll try to read it. So you read what is there on the screen, and when you are done, let me know. All done? Yes? Okay. So it's a beautiful excerpt from a chapter of Krishna book, and it is describing Krishna, mm, his activities, the surrounding. It's important for us to actually that's to live close to nature, because if you have not seen a crane, a swan, or a duck, it will be difficult to imagine what they look like, right? And what kind of sound they make. So that way it is said that if you have lived close to nature, you'll be able to understand Srimad Bhagavatam better. Next. This picture demonstrates what is there in the text. So you can read the text, look at the picture. All done? Okay. Then the next one, just the last one. This one has a different rasa. Okay. So now what we'll do is, we will reread these paragraphs, but then I'll play a audio recording of I try to read them, and you please try to absorb your mind completely in it and try to imagine all that is being spoken, the place, the sounds, everything. And you'll see that it is so satisfying to the soul, so pleasurable. When Krishna walked on the bank of the Yamuna, he was seen nicely decorated with tilak on his face. He was garlanded with different kinds of forest flowers, and his body was smeared with the pulp of sandalwood and tulasi leaves. The bumblebees became mad after the fragrance and sweetness of the atmosphere. Being pleased by the humming sound of the bees, Krishna would play his flute, and together the sounds became so sweet to hear that aquatic birds like cranes, swans, and ducks were charmed. Instead of swimming or flying, they became stunned. They closed their eyes and entered a trance of meditation in worship of Krishna. The cowherd girl said, "Oh friends, those eyes that see the beautiful faces of the sons of Maharaj Nanda are certainly fortunate. As these two sons enter the forest, surrounded by their friends, driving the cows before them, they hold their flutes to their mouths and glance lovingly upon the residents of Vrindavan. For those who have eyes, we think there is no greater object of vision." The other as demons, close friends of Dhenukasura, were enraged upon seeing his death, and thus they all immediately ran to attack Krishna and Balram. O king, as the demons attacked, Krishna and Balram easily seized them one after another by their hind legs and threw them all into the tops of the palm trees. Hare Krishna. So this exercise was done to us by when Krishna, His Grace Bhurijan Prabhu, a very senior disciple of Srila Prabhupada. So he said, like this, when we read, then we'll be actually able to relish a lot, you know. And then it will not just be reading, it will become a meditation. It will become so absorbed that these things will then slowly start coming in our mind, naturally by itself, spontaneous. And this is how slowly and slowly, we are able to enter into Krishna's pastimes, our meditation. Okay, so whether it's reading or whether it's hearing, we should always try to participate in it. How? By being very absorbed in it. So this is called experiential reading. Now, the next one, composition. Now, to some of you, this must be already known, but some might not know. That's why it's important to understand so that we can easily study, scrutinizingly study the books of Srila Prabhupada or any other book. You know, writing is a science. Okay. Any author or any writer doesn't write in any way. It's a particularly, it's also a system which they follow. So when we write any paragraph, when we write any essay, anything, there are certain rules that the writers follow. And when we are aware of those, when we read, when we study, it becomes easier for us to understand. So one of those rules is like writing a composition or a paragraph. Now, how do you make a paragraph? Well, when you are in small classes, the teacher said, whenever it gets more than 10 lines, change into a new paragraph. Isn't it? But that's not the definition of a paragraph, right? Sometimes the paragraph can be just 4 lines, and sometimes the paragraph can be entire page also. So what a paragraph is basically, it is a particular theme or particular subtopic which the writer presents in it, right? And whenever the writer wants to focus on another theme or another subtopic, the writer will change to another paragraph. And that's how it is. So how it is done, if we'll do it, a practical exercise of it also. So generally there are 3 parts to a paragraph or any composition: introduction, body, conclusion. Introduction is that section where the writer will tell us what he is going to tell us in the paragraph. Then the body is that section where the writer tells us. And conclusion is that section where the writer tells us what he told us in that paragraph. Okay? So this is the structure which a writer follows, and this is the structure which Srila Prabhupada also follows. So when we do that, it becomes very easy for us to systematically and scrutinizingly, analytically study Srila Prabhupada's books. So let us do this exercise. First exercise. It's an excerpt from Leelamrita by Satsvarup Maharaj, chapter 3. I'll read it, or maybe perhaps someone else should read it. Let me ask someone. Kiranmai Mataji, would you like to read? Hare Krishna. Are you there, Kiranmai Mataji? Oh. Nitai Mata, please read.
Thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna. Yet, because Abe had been raised a Vaishnava, he appreciated what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was saying. Abe had already concluded that this was certainly not just another questionable sadhu, and he perceived the truth in what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said. This sadhu wasn't concocting his own philosophy, and he wasn't simply proud or belligerent, even though he spoke in a way that kicked out practically every other philosophy. He was speaking the eternal teachings of the Vedic literature and the sages, and Abhay loved to hear it. Srila Prabhupada Leela Mehta Satsurupadas Goswami, Chapter 3. Thank you, Prabhu.
Thank you, Mataji. So now this paragraph also, it has 3 sections: the introduction, the body, the conclusion. What is the introduction? The introduction is the first line. Yet because Abhay had been raised a Vaishnava, he appreciated what Bhaktisiddhanta was saying, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta was saying. Appreciation of what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was saying. That is the introduction. That is the topic, right? And what goes in the body? It's an explanation of why he appreciated. Why he appreciated. Isn't it? What did he appreciate? Abhay had already concluded that this was certainly not just another questionable sadhu, and he perceived the truth in what Srila Bhaktisiddhanta said. This sadhu wasn't concocting his own philosophy, and he wasn't simply proud or belligerent, even though he spoke in a way that kicked out practically every other philosophy. This is what he appreciated, isn't it? This is why he appreciated. And what is the conclusion? The last thing. He was speaking the eternal teachings of the Vedic literature and the sages, and Abhay loved to hear it. Abhay loved to hear it. So you can see, this is how we can technically understand everything that is written. So I'll just underline the key term here. Appreciated. Next is right? So you'll see that everywhere. You'll see that in an essay, you'll see that in a book, you'll see that in a chapter, you'll see that in a paragraph. Sometimes what Srila Prabhupada does is, he ends a paragraph with a particular topic, and then in the new paragraph, he starts explaining that topic. And then he'll end that paragraph with a topic, and then he'll start explaining that paragraph, that topic in the next paragraph, like that. So you will always see there is a connection, there is a flow in the writing. Fine? Yes, Milind Prabhu, you have a question.
So, Prabhuji, I'm not able to understand why in the conclusion, Abhay allowed to hear. Right? It should be actually, he was speaking eternal teachings of Vedic literature. That is the essence, right?
Well, we are not talking about that is the essence, definitely. But what after the essence? What after the essence? Abhay appreciated that. That's the thing, isn't it? Yes, that is the essence. But Abhay appreciated. So if a question comes, what did Abhay appreciate? What did he like about it? Then that is what he liked about it, isn't it? Yes, Nitai Mata.
Hare Krishna Prabhu, this appreciation and the liking to hear, it comes with the conclusion. Is that are you going to connect that conclusion also, Prabhu?
Sorry,
It
Mataji.
no, sorry. It's because he concluded that he is not an ordinary sadhu. That the conclusion brought appreciation and liking the hearing, isn't it? So there is a connection in all the three. I don't know
Yes,
if
of course, of course. So the first is the Abhay appreciated. Now the question arises, why did he appreciate? That is explained in the body.
yeah, okay. Yeah,
And
thank
then at the end, Abhay loved to hear it, isn't it? You see, the point is, when a writer writes, the writer is always going to write it from a particular angle. You know, how the writer wants to project it. The same paragraph could have been written in another way also, isn't it? Right? But the writer has chosen to write it in this way, isn't it? Right? So that's how when we study any paragraph, we have to know this is the science: introduction, body, conclusion. Okay. Next. So now I'll give you this exercise. You let now tell me what is the theme, what is the introduction, what is the conclusion. Go ahead. Please read it by yourself and then help us understand. Do you have a question, Nitai Mata, or you want to answer?
Answer, Prabhu.
Okay, just let's wait for others to finish.
Yeah, of course. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so everyone read, right? Hmm? Yes, Nitai Mata, just tell me the first thing. What is the introduction?
Our problem, however, is that we forget our identity separate from the body and instead misidentify ourselves with it.
Thank you. So that's the introduction, right? The first line, basically. Gayatri Mataji.
Haribol Prabhuji. Like we forget our identity, that is the introduction. And from if a person happens to be born in America, he considers himself as an American. If he is born in France, he considers himself a Frenchman, and so on. We also identify ourselves according to our sex, race, creed, social status, etc. But all these qualities apply only to the body, not to the soul. So this is the main body, and conclusion starts from therefore embracing them as our true identity causes us to forget Lord and our relationship with Him, and to see ourselves as independent enjoyers of His material nature. So this is the conclusion.
Thank you. Okay. Now, Ashok Prabhu had raised, Priya Rani Mataji also raised. Let me ask this question. So, in the introduction, Srila Prabhupada said about misidentification, isn't it? Misidentification. We misidentify ourselves with the body. So, what is he doing in the body section of the paragraph? Ashok Prabhu, can you answer that?
Hare Krishna Prabhu. Prabhu, in the body section, he's explaining how we misidentify ourselves.
Very good. Yes.
We
He's
identify.
giving some more light on that, isn't it? Some
Yes,
practical explanation, how we misidentify,
yes,
isn't it?
Prabhu.
Correct?
Yes, Prabhu.
Now, Srila Prabhupada gave this explanation. If you are supposed to present it, you can give it you can explain it in another way, depending on the situation, the context.
Correct.
Right? Isn't it mean the principle is misidentification? Huh? And then Prabhupada gives some example. All right. Thank you, Prabhuji. Okay. And Priya Rani Mataji. So then what is the relation with the body and the conclusion? Yes, Mataji.
Conclusion is that we should always remember Krishna and not always keep in mind that we are this body and race, caste, creed, and all that. That is what conclusion.
That is the conclusion. How is it related to the body section or the introduction section? Uh, what is this? What is the? I would say, what is the essence that Srila Prabhupada is taking out? Let's say I observe people, they are behaving as Americans, they are behaving as men, they are behaving as children, they are behaving as old, they are behaving as women, they are behaving as whatever. So what is the conclusion Srila Prabhupada is trying to take out of it? Paramakanti Mataji.
So, Prabhupada is saying that this is what happens. Like if we misidentify ourselves with the body, then it causes us to forget the Lord and our relationship with Him.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So this is what happens. If we think like this, if we misidentify like this, then what will happen? It will force us to forget the Lord and forget our relationship with the Lord, isn't it? And we'll be forced to see ourselves as the independent enjoyers. Okay. So like that, you'll see he is drawing the point, but he's not just drawing the point. He's also bringing out new directions of how to look at it, understand it, apply it. If I do this, this is what happens, right? And it will affect me in this way, so on. Adi Satviki Mataji, you have a point? Adi Satviki Mataji.
sorry, Prabhu Dhanuvat Pranam. I think its qualities apply to body, not the soul.
Yeah, that is there. Yes, but that is not the conclusion. The conclusion is the last line. When it starts from therefore, that's the conclusion. Okay. Bindu Mataji, you have something to say?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. For me also, I thought the conclusion start from that, but all these qualities means misidentifying ourselves with the body and not the soul. So that is conclusion one.
Well, like that, there can be many conclusions in the paragraph also, isn't it? But we'll have to always look at the first thing. The first thing was what? What is the introduction? It should match with the conclusion. We forget our identity, isn't it? So when we forget our identity, what is the word that comes? What is the phrase that comes in the conclusion? I'll just mark it. Forget our identity means we forget our true identity. That's the first thing. Then comes misidentification. Understand? First comes forget your true identity. Then comes misidentification. So then forget the identity. So what is the conclusion? Because of that, we forget the Lord. Right? So when I forget my identity, then comes misidentification. Then how misidentification comes, that is explained by Sri Prabhupada in the body. I start thinking myself as American, this, that, this, that, this, that, this, that, right? But because I've forgotten my true identity, I've also forgotten who is Krishna, and then I've forgotten my relationship with Krishna, isn't it? And then the consequences, I try to become an independent enjoyer because I forget I'm Krishna's servant. That's my relationship with Krishna, isn't it? So then I start thinking I'm enjoyer, I'm not servant. I'm enjoyer. Just the opposite of that. Sachdev Prabhu.
Yeah, Prabhuji, just an analogy that the body is the container and the soul is that which is contained into the container.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you. Okay. So let's just look at it again. That's the introduction, that's the body, that's the conclusion. Fine. Now, reading strategies. So when we read, we can apply one or some or all of these approaches, right? These are different approaches to read. It's basically an English lesson. So first thing, and I'll just give you examples. It will become easier to understand. First thing is called purposeful reading. Read for a purpose, right? Not just casually. We did it in the last session. I told you, read these few paragraphs and then try to recall. So that is what? Purposeful. I have a purpose, isn't it? And you all noticed when there is a purpose, focus is better, isn't it? Attention is better, right? Because there is a purpose. In fact, let me tell you something of the path. To not have purpose to do anything means we lack mode of goodness, we lack sattva guna. It is the quality of sattva guna that will always have a purpose. In Rajaguna and Tamaguna, we just do things out of what? Impulse. Without a purpose. We just do it. But Sattva Guna means there is a purpose. There is a plan. Okay. So purposeful reading. So if you make purpose in life for anything you are doing, your Sattva Guna is increasing. All right. So that's a make a purpose. Then next is previewing. Previewing means what? I don't go through the entire thing. I just go through the initial table of content or whatever to know what is the topic, isn't it? Not into detail, just an overview, preview, just a look at it, overview, bird's eye view. Then contextualizing. Contextualizing means when I'm reading it, I'm trying to understand the context. Why it was said, for whom it is meant, what is the audience? Is it for a a grihastha? Is it for a brahmachari? Is it for a sannyasi? Is it for a child? Is it for an adult? Like, for example, everyone should do Ekadashi. Everyone should eat non-grains on Ekadashi, right? Isn't it? But is that instruction for a child also? Is that instruction for a very old person also? So Srila Prabhupada once said, Ekadashi is for everyone except those who are below 8 and above 80. Hmm. So below 8, if the child wants to eat non-Ekadashi food, no problem. Don't be so strict about it. Okay. Yes, Vrindavan Mataji will come to that, what you said. Okay. So context is very important, very much important. When we don't know the context, we can do great harm to ourselves and to others by preaching in a wrong way. Hmm. Like, for example, I'll tell you something. Let's say there is a brahmachari, and that brahmachari is giving a class to grihasthas. And this brahmachari is a new brahmachari. So then he goes to the grihastha's house, to a newly married grihastha couple, and then he says that the husband should not have any affection for the wife, and the wife should not have any affection for the husband. No, because this is material. And this is a danger on the path of spiritual progress. Now, what he's saying holds true, but for whom? For him as a brahmachari. It holds true for a sannyasi, but this doesn't hold true for a grihastha. For a grihastha, the husband should have affection for the wife, and the wife should have affection for the husband. Hmm? That is dharma for grihastha. Should not have attachment, but must have affection. Okay, so in that way we can preach in a wrong way, and this can be very dangerous, very, very dangerous. So we need to know the context. Context, very, very important. Okay, whom I'm talking to, right? So this is very essential. Next is visualizing. We already did that in experiential reading. Hmm? The next is asking and answering questions. If you saw the video on shloka memorization, I was teaching this in that shloka, right? Like Dharma Kshetre. So what is the name of that Dharma Kshetra? You ask a question. Answer is Kurukshetre, isn't it? Oh, what happened there? You ask the question. Samaveta Yuyutsavaha. Huh? Some people assemble to fight. Oh, some people assemble to fight. Who assembled to fight? Mamaka, Pandava, Shaiva, my sons and the sons of Pandu. Acha, what next? Kim Akurvata Sanjay. So like that you ask questions. Then it becomes more interesting. Okay, this is the flow, this is the connection, this is why it is happening. Okay, fine. The next is summarizing. We'll be doing it later on. Just putting the entire text in few lines, that is summary. Finding the theme, the keyword. Skimming. What is skimming? Skimming is basically you start with the first page and you just go to the last page, reading few things here and there to get an idea what the book is all about before buying a book. Generally we do that. Then scanning. What is scanning? Looking for a particular text. That is called scanning, isn't it? I'm looking for a particular reference, particular example, particular something, that's called scanning. Then marking the text, of course, you know what does it mean, and note taking. We'll do that also. Now, Vrindavan Lila Mataji said that if we have purposeful reading, it can make us have a tunnelized vision. Yes, it can do that. So one of the purposes is also to not, when we say purposeful reading, it's not that we should always have one purpose in mind when we read. So one purpose of reading can also be, let me not read it with any presumptions. That can also be a purpose, isn't it? So purpose doesn't always mean something out of motivation or something out of passion or something for result orientedness. No, purpose means I have a goal, that's the point. So I can also have a goal that I'll not read it with any presumptions, or I'll not read it with a particular, in a particular perspective only. I'll try to be open to receiving everything from it. So that is also a purpose. Fine. Yes, does anyone have questions? Someone raised the hand. Ashok Prabhu. Yes,
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, I have two questions. This previewing and skimming. Are they same?
Now, previewing basically means you go through the table of contents. All right. Skimming is basically you go through the entire book, but very quickly. Hmm.
Prabhu,
Yeah.
marking the text, what exactly we mean?
You can underline the text. Something is important.
Okay.
Highlight the text, underline the text.
Okay. Then, in addition to underlining, if we understand something, can we write the notes also? What
That's the
we
next
understand?
one. That's note taking.
That's note taking. Okay. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay, so let's move to the next one, and this is mostly our last exercise. So what we'll do here is, I request all of you to be attentive. Till now, if you're passive, now please become active participants. We'll read through this. I'm sorry. Gunjan Mataji, can we underline in Srimad Bhagavatam also? Well, there is no harm in underlining. We don't cross the text. That's what we, you know, we take that precaution. We don't cross the text. We don't cut the text, but we can underline. There's no harm in that. Some people may say, no, it's not correct to underline, but it's not like that. We can underline. There's no harm in that. We can underline in a very neat and clean way. There's nothing wrong with that. So you read through this, and then I have an exercise at the end. So what do you want me to do? Should I show the exercise questions first, and then you read it, or you read it and then I show the exercise questions?
Give the exercise question first, Prabhu, please.
Okay, so then you'll have a purpose to read. So note down these questions, please.
Write down.
Please let me know when you are done.
Prabhu Haribol.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, the last question, it says put it down in few bullet points. That bullet points included the names or
No.
the
Put it down
story?
in few bullet points means the story. Put the story in few bullet points. Okay.
Oh, the story. Okay.
And what is the moral
Haribol.
of the story? So
Okay.
I hope the questions are clear to all. Write down some keywords to identify the entire text. Okay, what is being discussed. Then summarize the entire text in few lines. Identify all the verses quoted in the text. What are the characters in the story? There is a story there. put it down in few bullet points so that you can remember that story. And what is the moral of the story? So since all of you are done, we'll now go to the text. And I'll give you not more than 10 to 12 minutes to do it. So please try to do it on time. Okay. When all are done, the first page, please let me know. Read it nicely. Done, everyone? Yes. Everyone, please. Yes, someone left? No? I'll move on then. Next one. Dear devotees, can we move to the next slide? Anyone left? No? Should I move? Just a second. Okay. All right. So I will move to the next slide. The next is just a short paragraph. So these are the questions. Now we give you 5 minutes. Write down everything. Two minutes more. Please don't put the answer in the chat box. We'll give you opportunity to speak. Okay, so who would like to give us the answers? Raise your hands, please. First, second, third. Karam Kanti Mataji. Can you please mention some keywords and give me one keyword which is exactly the main keyword? Yes, there can be many keywords, but one, you give all of them, but also give that one keyword which is the most important.
Sorry. So the keywords are determination, faith, perseverance, mode of goodness, and the most important keyword is determination.
Okay, thank you. The most important keyword is determination. It's all about determination, right? And that word is repeated again and again. If you see, that is the word in the beginning also, that is the word in the conclusion also. Right? So that's the most important thing. So now you see, when we know like this, it becomes easy, very much easy to then know exactly what is being spoken about. So if I tell you, someday you have to give a talk on determination, then you exactly know verse 6.24 from Bhagavad Gita. Right? Isn't it? Okay. So this is how we prepare. Okay, next question. What was the second question? Milind Prabhu, would you like to answer the second question? Summarize the entire text in few
Yeah.
minutes.
So the summary is practice of Bhakti Yoga with determination. Practice Bhakti Yoga with determination and faith by abandoning all mental desires and controlling the senses. Execute Bhakti Yoga by following prescribed duties in association with devotees and engage in activities of goodness.
Okay, thank you. That is the summary, and you could add one more line to it. When there is determination, then there is success guaranteed. That's the main thing, isn't it?
Yes, Prabhu.
That's the summary. Okay. Well, the summary can be now different by different people, so no need to worry about it. Some can express it in this way or that way, it doesn't matter. Huh? Now, next is Adi Satviki Mataji. Identify the verse quoted in the text. Which verse was quoted in the purport by Srila Prabhupada?
Identify the verse. Oh, I forgot to write it down, Prabhu.
Okay, no problem. So I'll give that question to someone else, and I'll come back to you for question number 4. Aruna Mataji.
Okay.
Upadeshamrita 3.
Yeah. Utsaha Nishaya Dhairya Tattat Karma
Dhairya.
Prabhati. Right? That's the verse quoted, isn't it? So if I need to now look more for determination, then I go to Upadeshamrita 3. Very good, thank you. Adi Satviki Mataji. There is a story which in this, isn't it? So, who all are the characters in this story? Please identify them.
Hare Krishna.
Yes.
The characters are Garuda, a small bird, sparrow, Lord Vishnu. Those are the 3 I can remember.
Okay, thank you. Any more characters? Anyone remembers? Venkatesh Jakan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandat Pranam. Ocean God.
Very good. Ocean is also a character, right?
Yes.
Ocean is a person, so Ocean is a character.
Yes,
And
yes.
there's one more character. Who is that?
Bird, sparrow.
Bird is done. Ocean is done. Lord Vishnu, Garuda.
Garuda is also done.
One more character. Gunjan Mataji. What is that character? Can you identify?
And Garuda.
Okay, ocean, Garuda, birds, Lord Vishnu, done. The fifth character is the egg. Come on, the egg is not a not a non-living thing. Egg is also a character. It's a passive character, but it is a character, right? Isn't it? Hmm? So the egg is also a character. If the egg was not a character, why would the sparrow be so sad about it? Next. So now put down the story in few points. Another character is there. Which one, Mataji? Lina Mataji. Okay, yeah, that is also there. Those who laughed on the sparrow, isn't it? Yes. Thank you. So now write down the story in few points. So can anyone tell the few bullet points? Like not the entire story, go point by point, just few things to know. Okay, this is what happened. This is the story. This is the storyline. Just few points. Who would like to tell that? Who did not try it? Okay, Vrindavan Lina Mataji.
Hare Krishna Prabhu. I think we can have few bullet points like sparrow loses her eggs to the waves of the ocean. Next could be ocean carries away her eggs. Sparrow is very upset. She requests the ocean to return the eggs. Ocean refuses. Sparrow is determined to dry the ocean. And then her story spreads. Then the next bullet could be reaches Garuda. Garuda is compassionate on her and he returns the favor by requesting the ocean. Ocean returns her eggs and finally she's happy. Can't hear you, Prabhu.
Garuda did not request, the Garuda warned the ocean, isn't it?
Yes, yes,
You
yes.
better
I'm
do
sorry.
it, otherwise I'll dry you up. Huh?
Yeah, he threatens.
Fine, threatens. Okay, thank you. And now moral. So very simple. What is the moral of the story? There can be many things to learn from this story. There can be many morals actually. Don't just focus on the main moral. Adi Satviki Mataji. First moral. Adi Satviki Mataji, we are waiting for you.
Haribol Danmotnam Prabhu. The moral, I mean, in my opinion, it's God helps who help themselves.
Thank you. Okay, that's that's the conclusive moral, right? We need to be strong in our determination. Krishna will help us. Yeah. Param Kanti Mataji. Any other moral?
Yeah. Irrespective of your capacity, just be determined, and yeah, the same one. Have faith in God.
Very good point. Determination does not depend on our capacity. We'll come to that later on. Thank you. Good point. Okay. Capacity in the sense, our ability, physical ability or mental ability or intellectual ability. Venkatesh Chakan Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji. We should not give up very easily.
Yeah, we should be determined. We should persevere, right? Isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Venu Mataji.
Prabhuji, Hare Krishna Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Purity is the force.
Okay. So her intention, right? What was her intention? That is also very important. Thank you. Ashok Prabhu.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Yes,
Prabhu, it says determination, faith, perseverance, and enthusiasm. If we work with that, it will definitely help you in succeeding in any goal. And if we strive for association with devotees, then it will definitely help us in succeeding in progressing in Krishna consciousness.
Thank you so much for that point. Garuda is a Vaishnava. So Prabhupada is saying sparrow could do wonders with the association of Garudev. Likewise, we also can do wonders with the association of Vaishnavas. Very important point. Okay.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Kamalakshi Mataji.
Success is sure for the rigid practitioner.
Okay. Rigid practitioner. Yes. Vrindavan Leela Mataji.
Hare Krishna. I think it's a repetition of the point.
But I definitely wanted to bring out the importance of Vaishnava Sangha. Ostensibly, things may appear very challenging, so much so that it borders on impossibility. But then, if we have the blessings of the Vaishnavas, then even the impossible task can become possible.
Very true. Thank you. Impossible becomes possible. Jyotirmay Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, according the moral of this story can be whenever we do any kind of a service or anything with full heart and full determination, we'll surely get the success.
Mitay Mata.
Hare Krishna Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
This is not the moral actually. Moral or everybody has mentioned, but I felt this is also important not to deviate. It's everybody was laughing, but she was very focused.
Yes,
So
thank you. That's also a very important point, right? Not to become disheartened easily by what others are saying. Be focused. This sometimes become a big obstacle for many people in their spiritual life. They bother too much about what others will say or what others will talk about them, right? Naveen Prabhu.
No pain, no gain.
Yes, some pain is required. Yes. Thank you, Sachinandan Prabhu.
Completely dependent on Krishna without the result, without thinking the result or without result, something like that.
Okay,
Confusing.
thank you. Yes, dependence on Krishna. Prahlad Raksha Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
When we know the goal, determination becomes easy. For example, the sparrow goal was to get the egg from the ocean. So that was our goal. When we focus on the goal, the determination becomes easy.
Very true. It's said that if you are losing enthusiasm in your life, then perhaps you are forgetting your goal. That's why you're losing enthusiasm. So if you want to have enthusiasm, always keep the goal right in front of your eyes, isn't it? Then enthusiasm will be there. Last point by Rajiv Khanna Prabhu. Rajiv Khanna Prabhu.
Yes, sir. So, faith can move mountains.
Yes, Prabhuji.
True. The ocean.
Thank you. Sajdev Prabhu. Sajdev Prabhu, we are waiting for you, please.
Yeah, Prabhuji, same thing what Rajiv Prabhuji said, but in the verse form, Mukam Karoti Vachalam Pangum Lagainte Girim. Second one is that even a smallest, tiniest act counts. Like in the Lord Ramchandra building the bridge, even the ant was carrying and doing its duty, and small rats were doing duty of putting the pebbles into the ocean.
Okay, thank you.
And the last one is that advanced devotees should always help the younger and newcome devotees.
Good point. Okay. So now you see, just a small purport, and all of you brought out so many different points. That is studying it from different angles of vision. That is what it means to analyze. That is what it means to scrutinize, isn't it? Then if you do this, how can we say that Prabhupada books cannot teach us everything? We have everything in that. Now let me also put some points to you. You see, I'll ask these questions. I am sorry we are a little late. It's the last session, so please bear with me. Just few more minutes I'll take. The sparrow had such strong determination. Was it based on an intellectual understanding of the situation? No, isn't it? If you look at it from that point of view, then it is very, very stupid to think like that the sparrow can dry up the ocean, right? It's irrational, it's illogical. Even if that sparrow takes millions of birds, still she will not be able to dry up the ocean. Right? So what was that faith or determination based on? it was based on faith, not on intellectual understanding. Many times we lack determination in spiritual life because we may have a lot of intellectual understanding, but not sufficient faith. That's one point. Second, see, the sparrow was taking out water from the ocean, and where was she putting the water? She was flying 2 kilometers away. No, she was putting water on the shore itself, and that water was again going into the ocean. So she was taking out water, putting on the shore, and it was again going into the ocean. So sparrow was actually doing very stupid thing, right? What attracted the mercy of the Lord? Not the intelligence of the sparrow, not the strategy of the sparrow, nothing. Just sheer faith that yes, I have a good cause and I depend on Krishna for it. I depend on Supreme Lord for it. When we begin to depend on higher forces than us, we can do a lot. And when we just depend on ourselves, we'll not be able to overcome the obstacles that come in spiritual life. Okay? So this determination is based on faith, right? So I'll draw a diagram for you to explain of kind of a chart. I hope you're able to see the screen. So determination, this kind of determination acts as the foundation for two things, which are also mentioned in the purport by Srila Prabhupada. And these two things are because of that determination, that sparrow had strong enthusiasm and patience. Okay, when we study NOI, Nectar of Instruction, then we'll be studying this in detail. Okay, right? And then this determination is based on what? What is the foundation of this determination? This is based on faith. So like that, if you make diagrams, notes, flow charts, then our presentation will be easy for us to memorize. Also, it will be very intellectually stimulating for those who are we are trying to present to. Okay, so it's the faith that makes that determination, and based on that determination, a person can have these two opposing qualities. Enthusiasm and patience are two opposite qualities, but it's the determination that binds them together. Right? Sometimes people are so enthusiastic that they lose patience. Prabhuji, I am chanting Hare Krishna since last 6 months. Why have I not become pure devotee yet? And some people become so patient, they lose all the enthusiasm, isn't it? So it's determination which puts both of them together. And that determination is based on strong faith. Okay, now someone has a question. Gunchan Mataji, have you a question or a point?
No, Prabhuji, I forgot to lower my hand. I'm sorry.
Oh, no problem. Okay, then there's another thing. Vimala Mataji, do you have a question?
How to cultivate strong faith? How to have that faith?
By associating with those people who have that faith. By being with them, we'll get that faith. By hearing from them, we'll get that faith. Or any good quality we want, we should find those who have it and we should associate with them so we'll get it. Okay. Just like any bad quality we get from someone, good quality is also obtained from someone who has it. All right. So there's another thing which I would like to show to you. What is the main theme of the text actually? If you look at it, what is the main theme of the text? If you study if you read the shloka in Sanskrit, you will understand that this text talks about one-pointed determination. That determination which makes you keep your mind focused on the goal. It's talking about that. Okay, that's the thing. Now let us try to relate the analogy with that. Gunjan Mataji tried a bit. I appreciate it. But let's try to complete it. Okay. So what are the characters here we see? Sparrow is one character. Uh, Eggs is another character. Ocean is third character. People who are making fun are the fourth, is the fourth, right? And Garuda, so Vishnu, sixth character, isn't it? As of now, we're not bringing Lord Vishnu into picture. Five of them. Okay. Now, who do they represent? Sparrow represents the soul. Eggs, mind. Mind. Isn't it? Maya will again and again try to take away the mind of the sadhaka, the spiritualist. Like the ocean took away the eggs. Like the mind will be taken away by the Maya. Hmm. Mind belongs to Atma, the soul, isn't it? But Maya will take it away. If you look at later on, look at the Sanskrit shloka and the translation of it, then this comparison will make more sense. Okay, so the mind will be taken away by Maya. And Maya is very, very strong. How to pull the mind back? How to get the mind back? I need the help of Guru. I need the help of Vaishnavas, Sadhu Sangha, which is marked by Garudadev, isn't it? Mhm. And non-devotees will try to make fun of us when we're trying to practice a spiritual life. They pass comments on us. So in this way, you see, just one small purport, but we can draw so many conclusions from it. So many. Right? Isn't it? We can learn so many things from it. Right? Makes sense? All right. Fine. So I think we'll end here. Clear all this. And we are at the end then of today's session, Reading Reform course. Two things I would like to say before I conclude fully. One thing is that I sincerely appreciate all of your participation in the course, active participation. We spent 3 weeks with you and it was all very wonderful, right? Orientation, Sanskrit, reading reform. Now from next week, Monday, Gita is starting Bhagavad Gita. Narayani Mataji will be taking it. And after that, Raghupati Pran Prabhu will come. So I'll meet you after a long time again, after maybe 5 to 6 months. Okay, so till then, wish you all the best in your Bhakti Shastri course. And yes, of course, if any one of you were offended because of some kind of humor which I shared or some comments, or I could not answer your questions properly, or I did not give you preference, or did not look at your comments well, or whatever mistakes done by me, kindly forgive me, okay? To most of you, I am like your son or younger brother, so considering that, be merciful upon me. Thank you so very much. Hare Krishna.
Thank you
Srila
so
Krishna.
much.
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Prabhu.
Krishna.
Thank you very much.
Hare
Prabhuji.
Krishna,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
Dandavat
Hare
Pranam.
Krishna.
Thank you so much.
And please pray for
We have
Hare
really
Krishna,
enjoyed,
Prabhuji. Thank you.
Prabhuji, hearing from you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna
you.
Prabhu, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you so much.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna
Praying
Prabhuji,
for
Dandavat
you.
Pranam.
Great time.
From
Feel
good
feel better, Prabhuji.
Dandat Pranam Prabhuji. Hare
Shastri,
Krishna.
thank you for your
Hare
patience in
Krishna.
bearing with us, Prabhuji.
Wonderful class.
Prabhu,
Hare
I have a small question.
Yes, Mataji.
Prabhu, in the orientation session, you mentioned we'll also be taught how to be humble in the reading reforms.
Really?
Like actually, I was the one who was scared of that. So you mentioned about it. So I was waiting for that.
I don't remember I mentioned that actually. Maybe, but of course, if I mentioned it, that was not one of the objectives. That was just maybe something I spoke
Yes,
about.
yes.
But all of you are, I hope you all are humble enough. And yes, you study Bhakti Shastri. Then, you see, I'll tell you something. This, when I was taking orientation, Sanskrit and reading reform, I had one approach of teaching. But when I'll be teaching Bhagavad Gita or Ishopanishad, I'll be more instructive in that. So don't mind that kind of style. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you.
Hare
Thank
Krishna.
you very
Hare
much.
Krishna.
Thank you very much, Prabhuji, for
Hare
wonderful
Krishna.
class.
Hare
So
Krishna.
wonderful.
Thank you.
So
Prabhuji.
We had a wonderful
Hare Krishna.
association with you,
Thank you
Prabhuji.
so much.
forward.
Thank you so
Hare
much.
Krishna. Thank you.
Thank
Hare
you.
Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much.
Hare
Hare
Krishna.
Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, thank you. Prabhuji.